when I got sober, I didn't think I would be able to watch movies or consume music, let alone film shorts and content or create music, just because I thought the same thing. Like, oh man, like my relationship was fueled by drugs. My relationship was fueled by the settings and spaces that like, it could condone and endorse that, and it's just kind of a wrap for me. Yo, I'm Bryce the Third.
And I'm Liz McKean.
And you are now tuned in to the Rise, Recover, Live podcast. Here we dive into all the recovery stories from around the world.
And we talk about all pathways because there's no one right way to recover.
If you've been with us for a while, you know how powerful stories are. So get ready for your community to get just a little bigger today.
We are so glad that you're here. Let's get into the show.
Liz, what is happening? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. One of these days before you say words after my name, I'm going to hop in and be like, Bryce. It doesn't work as well.
If you do that, you might get hired by some type of sports team to come do their announcements.
Ooh, let's get ready to podcast. Like that?
Then you're fired.
Oh, yeah. It was short-lived, but
how
still putting it on my resume.
Your energy today, Liz?
My energy, it's not consistent. I think that seems to be the case this week. I'm finding that I'm having a lot of peaks and valleys throughout the day. Of high energy, low energy, feeling real good about what I'm doing, feeling like what the heck, I don't know what I'm doing at all, and very few things in between because moderation, we don't even know her. But I'm feeling energized right now and excited to be talking to you and excited for you to see the sun after this convo. How's your energy?
My energy is smooth. It started out, I was pretty high energy because the sun was out today. The kids are home, so early morning rises to take the baby to school. Did that. Came home, went to the gym that shall not be named until they sponsor us. And then came home and screamed to some music in the shower before I hopped on my first meeting this morning. And just feeling overall well, man. Just well. Just well with my soul.
I want you to feel well. I also want to know what music you screamed in the shower.
So it was crazy because if y'all don't know, listeners, I'm a big Kendrick Lamar fan. And so he just dropped his album GNX maybe like a month ago. And it's interesting, when it first dropped, I was I liked it. It felt very urgent. It's very West Coast. And, you know, I sat on it for a minute, and there was definitely some standout cuts on there where it's like, okay, yeah, as a Kendrick Lamar fan, these are the songs that we've been looking for. But there was a lot of like initially songs that was like, this isn't as substance filled as I've gotten used to from Kendrick Lamar. But boy, let me tell you, have those bops grown on me. And for some reason, I'm continually learning more and more words so that I could scream them louder and louder. But this morning, he got a song called Squabble Up. So like I was listening, it was Whacked Out Murals, which is the first song, and I like to like run to that song because of it's like some affirmations in the hook, you know, going up your rank, know you a god even when they say you ain't. Like I like the affirmations, but then like my cue was still stuck from yesterday because Apple is weird, and then instead of like the next song coming up, which was supposed to be Squabble Up, which is like even more high energy, it went to Infinity song. It's a song called Pink Sky. I've sent you a song of theirs called Metamorphosis, and it's like indie folk music. Mm-hmm. And my spirit didn't know what to do because it's like, man, I love this song, but I was like ready to punch something. Like, and I think that kind of describes my energy for today.
That's a lot. That, I mean, which I guess like that, like, you know, ready to, like, I like it, but ready to punch somebody. I mean, that's, I feel like when I'm feeling a lot.
No. I didn't say somebody. I didn't say punch somebody. I said punch something.
Oh, something. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Well,
Yeah,
my
no,
apologies.
those are two different actions.
Well, yeah, one hurts you and one hurts the other person.
I mean, I
Uh,
get punch a pillow, and then the pillow don't feel, and then I, get to punch something.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. That's another thing about music too, because like music is cathartic in a way from like where from the creator's point of view, like I can create something that like normally in a conversation with Bryce, it's like, Bryce ain't like that. Bryce don't be on that, and people who like really know me, you could tell they're trying to like reconcile that. Like I'm hearing
Mm,
this, and this is like, but then I'm seeing you, and it's like, and at one point I wouldn't have been able to do that, but like in expanding my ability to go into different elements and realms within creativity, like that's as fun and cathartic for me.
mm-hmm.
And honestly, like there's pieces in me that like, of course, like I feel that way sometimes. I might not
Yeah.
speak it because as a person, my practice is compassion and understanding. But like sometimes I feel spiteful. Sometimes I feel like, you had your chance and, I'm going to show you and so that might be expressed through the music. And when it comes to like live shows, like I love shows where I can mosh. Like not like I've seen like I just I'm not like the I've seen the moshes where they like kick in the air and kick each other in the mouth, and
Oh
like that's not
God.
my type of mosh. My type of mosh though, it's like I've been to moshes where like Denzel Curry is one of them. West Side Boogie is like they'll turn up. Triple X Temptation was one of them. They'll turn up, but then if you were to fall, like they'll stop and they'll grab you and pick you back up, and then
Mm,
everybody will get back to them pushing each other, and then but like it's you feel like you finna die, but you know that you support it. You know.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
That's exciting. That like it almost feels like roller coaster energy to me where it's just like your body is literally being hurled around and uphills and downhills and everything and it's just like that thrill but you're buckled in like we've all seen the movies but so that there's always that little fear that can I trust
yeah,
this, but there's some element of trust.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
like it.
It's
Well,
a community
that's
thing.
a pretty good beginning to an episode where this is what I was hoping that we would talk about, which is music, and really want to talk about your music because we keep mentioning that you're an artist, but I don't know we've really gone into a lot of detail about it, and I know what an important part of your life that is, and I love that part of you. Like even though I don't always speak the right language, I or the same language. I love that that's an area that you express yourself in a way that is different and that's like I don't know, like maybe like you said, almost expressing feelings that maybe you're not going to in like your everyday life because you are a multifaceted person and you do have a lot of um we all have all the feelings, and to be able to express them and not have to hold back and to make it art and to make it something that somebody else is going to be able to take and like integrate into maybe feelings that they're feeling is I mean that's just such a gift that you I like can give to yourself but also that you're giving to the world. Anytime I listen to anything that you send me that you've created, it always feels like a gift to be able to listen to. And yeah, I want more people to know about it that are hearing this podcast because it's really freaking rad.
Yeah, I think you said it. I wish I had like a rainbow that could appear above my head every time I say the word integration. If if the editor could do that, that'd be sweet. But yeah, I mean, learning to build a relationship with ourselves, and I'll speak in I language. Learning to build a relationship with myself. There are a lot of different elements to me that before recovery I didn't know how to put together, and it felt like an extra responsibility. Like I was the black kid at the school that was told that he talked white, but I was also I would go home to a home where like my sister dad like would tell me not to turn my hat backwards because that's what thugs do, and I was like, damn, like I can't catch a break, like, and my mom was always big on, use words that make, like, if I said, no, that ain't right, it's like, no, that isn't right. I'm like, all right, mom, no, that isn't right. And so, and it's funny because I'm glad she did that, because look at me now. You know what I'm saying? Like 80% of what it is that I do involves communication.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know how to speak Ebonics. I also know how to speak, in a way, and I'll play with language in a way in my music that isn't always grammatically correct, but like resonates with the soul. The soul resonant, But it's like that experience of so many different pieces of me. How do I put them together? I used to have to it, and for those listening, this is gonna be disjointed a bit because I feel like that's my relationship with music, where it's just like there's so many different pieces that lead to like where we are today, and all the cool stuff we've been able to do, and all the creativity that is here and the creativity to come. But Eminem's first CD, the Slim Shady LP, I used to hide that from my mom. I had the CD, and I had like this little computer desk with a little flap down, and like I would put the CD in there, boot. I probably stole it from somebody at school, whatever. I didn't have no money to buy anything. I was a bad nappy head kid. But like the thing, I would put the CD in there, and then one day my mom found it. Like, what is this? And I'm like, I don't know what that is. That's somebody's at school, But like the fact that I had something that belonged to me,
Mm-hmm.
and that I could listen to it, and it was like vivid storytelling, and I'm like, I'm like 8, 9. So Eminem back then was speaking to the juvenile, like chuckling in the back room, like, "Ooh, I'm listening to something I ain't supposed to be listening to." But it was also like the vivid storytelling. He used his words to provide like an auditory experience that like I could see. And it's like, oh, and I've since learned that that's like something that like not everybody can experience or has tried to experience, where like you can see without like having to like literally see, like without having to see video.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like one of the first times where it's like, oh, like I like this thing, like I like this thing. It's kind of my thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there, I mean, an element of kind of like shame instilled, like you're not supposed to like this thing, or did that not stick
Mm,
with you?
I mean, I dealt with a lot of confusion and shame as a kid just because it felt like everything that I wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, sure. But at least with music, like I didn't care. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care. Like we gonna figure this out anyway. Like you could tell me I'm not gonna be able to listen to it. I just mean I ain't gonna be able to listen to it here. But you gotta
Mm-hmm.
think, I was an internet kid, so eventually came LimeShare and Napster and all that stuff. So I figured out how to get my fix.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think, when you have such a dynamic inner world, I mean, that's a cool thing that I love about music is that there's times, especially when you're growing up, like that you're actually no, I'm 44 and I still have this experience where like my insides, it's hard to make sense of something that I'm feeling. And I mean, this is a product of, clinical anxiety, but if I'm feeling something uncomfortable and it doesn't match like the experience I'm having, I'll find something to make it I'll be like, what? I feel anxious, and often that's just, again, my anxiety, but I can always find something to attach it to. So let me, like, what can I worry about? Oh, there's always a list. But
Uh,
music is such a powerful tool because I can put it somewhere, to make it make sense. So like I'm feeling really I mean, sad is, I'm just going to use a different example than anxiety because it works for my story right now. But like if I'm feeling kind of sad inside and I can't quite match it with anything and I can't shake it, like sadness for me is a real sticky feeling, That's why I don't watch sad movies or read sad stories, because there's just enough real sadness to, I don't need to manufacture it. And once it's in me, it will stay for a long time. And something about listening to music that matches that sadness, it's like I have a place to put it. It feels more available to cry, to express it, and then I can unstick it a little bit. And it's like being seen I guess, I mean, sort of by this artist, but really it's like allowing yourself to see yourself in a moment where emotions can be too big to do that. And I don't know if I'm describing that in a way that's relatable, but that's what it does for me.
No, I can relate for sure, for sure. Uh, we could look up the definition. Yeah, so I just googled melancholy because
Mm.
I use that as a word to kind of paint my experience sometimes, and it's a
Hmm.
feeling of pensive sadness, typically with no obvious cause.
Good
Having
one.
a feeling of melancholy, sad and pensive. She felt a little melancholy. Let's see. Causing or expressing sadness, depressing. The study makes melancholy if instructive. I don't know that last definition, but melancholy is kind of the word that I use to paint experiences where I'm just blue, but
Hmm.
there's something that feels good about leaning into the blue. It's something that feels authentic about leaning into the blue,
Yeah.
and I I've used that to experience life
Hmm.
because oftentimes we run away from the sadness so much, the blue so much, or want to quickly define what the blue is versus sitting with it and having tea with it, that like we don't understand what it's here for. And maybe it's not here for anything and it's just here.
Hmm.
And for me, like if something's here and I'm pushing it away, like then it gets worse. So I got a couple of artists that I'll rock with. Kid Cudi was one of the ones that really introduced me. And I didn't get up on Kid Cudi when he first came out. His first single came out, I was probably middle school, maybe early high school, was Day and Night. Day and Night, I toss and turn, I keep stressing my mind. And I liked that single, but then I think I heard a couple other things from him, and it was like, bro's weird, right? But it wasn't until I entered into recovery and I really started like listening and creating my own home within music versus like what I thought was cool or what I thought everybody else thought was cool. Where it's like, oh, he has this real unique way of creating music. So when I wrote, or even how I used to consume, it's like it needs to hit the beats.
Hmm.
There's a problem, and then there's what we did and what happened, and then there's the solution. Kid Cudi has his way of making songs that like it's just like, yeah, I'm sad, this sucks, I'm the loner, I'm the stoner, and then it goes off. Like, it's like, yo, yeah, I didn't need a solution right now. I just need to know that
Yeah.
I'm not alone. I need to know that in that instance, because a lot of times I listen to those songs, I'm like, bro, you sadder than me right now, and I'm pretty sad, So it's like, okay, well, it's not that bad, and so I just need to croon and hum and feel sad right now with no resolution. And then I
Yeah.
started implementing that into some of the things that I do where I might not necessarily have like a direct solution. Maybe this is just it's like an audio picture of an experience
Yeah.
where if you took a snapshot, you don't see who's to the left and who's to the right. You see what's in focus. You see the facial expression of who's in focus, and that's all you see. You don't get
Mm.
any other context. And that photo in a photo album can be representative of an experience amidst a bunch of experiences. And that photo
Yeah.
is just as important as the other photos. And it makes the photo book more immersive because of that specific point in time. And so it's like, okay, yeah, well, yeah, I need the song. And I got some cry songs. Like I got some go-to songs that I know, like if I click play on this song, I'm freaking crying.
Yeah.
And so I keep them kind of like in a tuck just in case it's one of those days where it's the emotions are in me and they're kind of stuck in me and I feel like I want to cry and it's not coming up. Press
Hmm.
play and it's a wrap. I'm boo-hooing.
Yeah. I have a question. You know, big feelings, I think in my experience and in our conversations, folks who have experienced use disorder and or just a lot of substance use, people who have identified as being in recovery, we often talk about how you know, big feelings were rather intolerable, and that was one of the reasons. Or it was too big, we didn't have a place to put them. And I know for me, like I needed to numb. I wanted things to go away. If something was uncomfortable, I mean, talk about a solution. Like, I was like, what can I reach for to be not uncomfortable? I cannot stand discomfort. I'm going to make it go away with this substance. And I hear people talk about how, like, they get sober and they don't know if they're going to be able to make music anymore because their creative process was based on their use. And that has always been hard for me to understand, because I'm like, I don't know if I'd be able to have a creative process when I'm using, because I can't sit with those big emotions. So how could I ever make art around it, As opposed to, like, once I get sober, now I feel the big feelings and I could talk about it. I could put words to it. I'm not an artist, but maybe if I was, I'd then put music to it. So what is that relationship like with, like, the before and after, if that's something that you are comfortable talking about?
I mean, to be honest with you, like, I don't think I had. This was funny. When I got sober, I didn't think I would be able to watch movies or consume music, let alone film shorts and content or create music, just because I thought the same thing. Like, oh man, like, my relationship was fueled by drugs. My relationship was fueled by the settings and spaces that, like, it could condone and endorse that, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of a wrap for me. And the first time I knew I was wrong was in rehab, where I met this kid and we had kind of locked in, and we had, it is actually one of my karaoke songs now, but Forgot About Dre off of Chronic 2001. Nowadays, everybody want to talk that they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move their lips. It's just a bunch of gibberish. Because I forgot about Dre. And so I would rap Eminem's part, and he would rap Dr. Dre's part. Then I would rap Dr. Dre's part, and he would rap Eminem's part. And then there's, like, beats coming to, because we can't have no, I'm in here for like 30 days. We can't have no music. And so, but I'm beating on the table again, and there's something in me, and I'm super turned up from just hearing music by memory. And I think the most uh, unique part of the unique piece of creation from that experience was there was this PBS special that we watched on substance use disorder, and uh, the theme song for that, when a theme came on, like the intro to the PBS special came on, I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. And so when I got home, I found it, and I downloaded it, and then I chopped it up and I made a beat for it. And I created this song called Hold On. It's on my first tape called Internal Revenue. It's out on streaming right now. And the intro to it that uses the same sample, I called Rest in Peace, Acadia and Mike. Acadia was a young girl that I was in there with, and about a year after we got out, she ended up overdosing. And we connected because we had the same drug of choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like to see somebody nodding off in there, like, I was like, you my people,
Yeah.
and then we had connected, and then so I was able to, like, dedicate the song from the intro that I heard in there to her. But that's a side mission story. I think when I got out, it was like, yo, I have no choice. Like, I thought, like, I thought I'm gonna put this thing down, or maybe I might try to have a conversation, but it started having a conversation with me. And it's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is very much a part of my DNA. Like, this is how I consume the world. Like, hip hop, music in general. Like, I was a kid, and my mom would ask me, who's this? Beethoven? Who's this? Like, John Coltrane. Like, I'm like, my mom would tell you, I'm 5'6". Who's this? Like, Dizzy Gillespie, who's this? Michael Jackson. Like, it's part of my DNA. It's how, that's like the analogies, like imagine if music was just like just a whole bunch of notes and never no pauses. Like, analogies like that, like the pauses are just as important as the notes.
Yeah.
Like, analogies like that allow for me to, like, take breaks in real life. Like, oh yeah, right. I'm playing too much. I need to, like, give it space. And
Yeah.
so when it comes to, like, alchemizing experiences, like, I didn't even, before, I was trying to make stuff that I thought other people thought was cool, and,
Mm-hmm.
and I was forcing
Yeah.
so much so that, like, nobody was connecting with it because it was still me, but I wasn't connecting with it because I thought it's what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first started creating in sobriety and recovery, like, that's when I first started having the experience of actually taking I'm still going through it. I came out of rehab back to the neighborhood where they shooting on a corner. You know, I'm a law abiding citizen at this point, but I'm still in the same area. I'm still experiencing all this stuff,
Yeah.
and so I had a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
But now, and you've heard my latest project for colder weather, which hopefully by the time this episode comes out, it'll be available on all streaming platforms. Right now, it's only available on Even,
Mm-hmm.
but like songs like the Persistence Pledge, where I'm talking about consistency, continuity, like the practice, the process of showing up over and over again, and making like a bop, and like being slick about about it, and talking about it in a slick way that feels good to listen to and can play in the background, or could also like just play when I'm in the zone. But
Mm-hmm.
it's also talking like from the point of view of somebody who, yeah, like I'm in a space of safety. Like I'm in a space of abundance. I'm less of in transition from this, and I'm in this space. I'm welcoming this space, and there's still a lot to talk about that process. But even somebody who hasn't had any of that experience, like people still deal with breakups, people still stub their toe, people still have great days. And if you listen to Sun, like which is the last song on there, it's like a song about the sun being out. you know,
Yeah.
I think the true artist knows how to take what's around, and in hip hop that can be kind of tough because hip hop, I think we're the only genre that like you see the Guns N' Roses or the Rolling Stones, like they're touring off of the same 4 or 5 albums that they used to have. But now, like in hip hop, if Too Short or E40 or somebody like MC8 or like if you anybody but Jay-Z, like you the old school hip hop, the Legends of Hip Hop tour, and it's like, man, my daddy and them going to that, like like we don't treat
Yeah.
them, and so that can kind of have an impact on how we process, which is interesting. So we're just now starting to see that we have OGs like Jay-Z was able to drop an album called 444. There's a lot of like um, uh, evolving song contents, lyrical content, talking about like generational wealth, talking about what it's like to be a real estate investor, talking about in its mainstream commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's a whole nother story. So I don't know if I answered the question, but my process in that is I know people that's like I will sabotage my life so I have something to write about. I know people that feel that everything that happens that isn't necessarily desirable is I got to write a song about it immediately. And I know people that like don't care and show up and write music like a practice, and like I've got to
Mm-hmm.
write a song a day. I think
Yeah.
everybody has their own individual relationship with the process of like integrating their experience through music.
Yeah. That's so. Yeah. I was thinking about Elizabeth Gilbert, um, when you were talking about like the way the kind of the way you have experiences, and then how that influences your music, and then how you experience music that other people have created that's coming from their experience. And like um Elizabeth Gilbert is I don't know if everybody knows who she is, but she wrote Big Magic. She wrote Eat Pray Love. She's done a lot of other things too, and written other things, but she's pretty awesome. I think it was in Big Magic, but she's said it again and again, is that when you're an artist, and for her she's a writer, but she really speaks, I think, to people that have all sorts of art, that like you create the art, and then you put it out in the world, and like it's none of your business really how people take it in. Like if you try to make it your business, then you're not going to be able to continue. Like that's going to end your ability to create, because I mean it's a gift you're giving to the world, and that gift has to be pretty unconditional in order for you to be able to keep doing it, and in order for people to be able to integrate it into their own experience. I thought that was
Yeah,
applicable.
and I think even that, like, that's a mouthful.
I'm probably misquoting. I'm not even trying to
No, no,
quote,
no.
but
I
I'm
mean,
probably misrepresenting a little.
I definitely can relate to all that.
Mm-hmm.
and I hear that with two different minds. So I hear that with the mindset of like, oh yeah, like once I put it out, it's no longer mine.
Mm-hmm.
Like this doesn't belong to me anymore. I put it out there, and it's super dope to like hear somebody and what their interpretation of something was. And I actually purposely, and I think the best songwriters purposely don't share as much about what they meant,
Yeah.
because that allows for like diehard fans. Because if you leave a couple breadcrumb trails, and now recently, like I've been getting into like imagery and like even the way I dress and like communicating messages through like things beyond just the music, to
Mm-hmm.
allow people, if they're super interested, like there's a journey to go down,
Oh
and
yeah.
in a way you could have fun and piece it together, and then
Oh,
it's like,
talk
oh
to
well,
any Swiftie and they
yeah,
understand
yeah,
that.
yeah. Taylor Swift, Childish Gambino, just there's a lot of people that are really Billie Eilish. There's a lot of people that are really like experts at creating this experience for people to like, this is mine.
Yeah.
And when I come to this show, like, yeah, I'm coming to see this person perform, but like I'm coming because this represents an era of my life. You know,
Yeah.
this got me through such and such. When you hear people that express like, oh, I heard your song and it got me through such and such, they aren't attached to what you meant when you said that. They're attached to what it is that they interpreted when they consume that, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one hat that I'm listening to. Other hat is if there's an artist listening to this right now that is like, look, man, like it's taking a lot for me to just put pen to pad, like, or it's taking a lot for me to like just get in the lab and just create something. Like, screw all that, like don't even trip, just create,
Yeah.
just create,
Yeah.
because I think like we can get so in the weeds about like, well, am I doing this too much? Am I not doing this enough? Am I putting, is this too much struggle? Is this not enough struggle? Like at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, Julia Cameron, the artist's way, which I recommend to any aspiring artist or any artist in practice, if you get paid, if you don't get paid, the artist's way will sharpen your sword, where she suggests the morning pages, where it's three pages in the morning that I write as soon as I wake up. It don't got to be about nothing. The only requirement is that the pages get done.
Mm-hmm.
And so that helped for me to write my book. That helps for me to write through the process of like, I don't like the way this sounds when I speak this, when I rap this, when I sing this. Like, I don't, like, just but write it and complete it, whatever, get it
Yeah.
done. Because there's always another opportunity to write something. So yeah, both and I think that just speaks to like music in general, because it's like the best music comes from a place of knowing that, like, and in my opinion, that uh, like a lot of things can exist in the same space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, and a thing that I love about, I don't know, I guess the way you react to reactions, and then this could just be my experience of you, and obviously you're my friend that I love dearly, so that plays a part. But whenever I've listened to your music, like your recent album that came out, that um I just could not more highly recommend, because it's amazing and I really loved it, and it made me feel big feelings, but in a way that I really enjoyed, which, as a person who can be a little phobic about big feelings when I'm not necessarily like seeking it out, that was a cool experience. um and I also really like your words, and they make me smile. um Anyways, but I'm able to say stuff like that to you, like I've said that kind of reaction to you, like, I don't know, I feel a lot of things and it makes me smile, and like I really like this line, and I know it's like a jokey line that like you're kind of joking in there, but it's just like it also like pulled it together in a way that I just will never forget that, and I could say that, and you receive that like in a way that makes me feel good, and I don't know, that's just a nice exchange. Like I feel like when it comes to um I don't know, the kind of like music can just create so much relationship, whether it's just like somebody on a stage with a bazillion people that are like dancing and there's just like that exchange that's happening there, or me sending you an Enya song, because I don't think you necessarily probably were a big Enya listener, and I'm sorry people, yes I am, and I was like, this makes me feel a certain way. You could hear that, and it meant a lot to even just share that with you, and then to have you create something, trust me to listen to it. I mean, obviously you're trusting the world too, but you're going to hear from me and then receive my very not, uh, I just don't have the level of knowledge that I would necessarily feel comfortable saying how I feel about something to most artists, but I can say that to you, and I feel like you understand the heart that comes behind it, and it's made me feel closer to you. And I feel like probably people that don't even know you would feel that way when they listen to your music.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate anybody who takes the opportunity to give it a listen, and yeah, in a way because I want people to connect with the art, but also in a way because like I I wouldn't make it if I didn't feel that I was saying something that somebody else was saying, or that I was creating something that somebody else is creating. And so it's cool to see people connect with some of the weird stuff that I do, because it's like that's really, it's a direct, even if it sounds super far from who it is that I would be if we have a conversation, it's a direct connection to like my interpretation of some type of experience, so to be able to share that is really dope. And also, I mean, the thing to say too about like, I'm saying, I'm just saying these words and I can say that to you, and man, don't downplay it. And this is a thing that I've found recently where I actually, so for those who don't know, I'm not classically trained in anything. Like, I just knew that I could make my mom cry with something that I wrote, right? And this was before I was super intentional, but like I wrote her a couple of songs. I sampled a Peter Frampton song when I first started making beats. It was Do You Feel Like I Do? And I made a Mother's Day song and put it on a CD and gave it to her. And, when I saw that she cried, I'm like, whoa, these are powerful vibrations. I didn't necessarily lean into like that power at that time, but when I seen that, like emotions is energy in motion, you put energy into this music is vibration, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that, at least for me. And so I just followed that versus like, I feel that this note is in E minor and it should be in G chord 7 and music theory, blah, blah. And not even like, I love my music theory people, but I would never prioritize like the theory of it over the feeling.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm one of the shows that I've been watching recently is called The Bear, and it's a wonderful show, wonderful, fantastic show. Really is like tickling my filmmaking itch. I gotta do something. But in the episode I watched last night, one of the restaurant owners talked to one of the main characters, and the main character had asked the restaurant owners, like, if you were in my position, because he was just starting and she was retiring, if you were in my position, what would you tell yourself if you were in my position? And one of the first things she led with is, well, you don't know shit, and that makes you invincible. And I've been feeling that recently where like I like to play with my voice, so I'm thinking of like verticals, how I can make an impact and make some cash, and voiceovers and voice acting has been kind of like calling my name, and I've been recommended a couple of times, and so I'm looking into that, and it's like I could dive deep into like voiceover culture and like dig deep into the knowledge of people who have been doing it for 30 years. Or I could just take, you need a highlight reel of what you've done, and you need to be in these spaces, and you need to apply for and what is it, audition for work. So I'm gonna just put the reel together. I'll put the reel together. Now I'm about to audition for work, and we'll see what happens, and then I'll get the feedback. But if I dug into people who've been doing it for 30 years, like I'm gonna just get all of this stuff, but I'm not taking an action that allows for me to cultivate my own understanding. And so same with music, where it's like sometimes I go in a hole. I am very influenced. My favorite artists are Stevie Wonder and Michael Jackson. I feel like I gotta throw a lyricist in there, but I really like Stevie Wonder and Michael Jackson, two of the greatest artists of all time. And I'll go and I'll listen, and the beautiful thing about music is there's music that was made in the in the 30s and 40s that like I haven't heard yet. So there's so much to like listen to, and there's music that was made in the 90s that I just love, and every time I listen to it, I grow a little bit, so it sounds different when I hear it again. But then sometimes I cut it off, and I'm not influenced, and I'm like really just working off of that, not knowing, and creating from that space, which allows me to create something that may be unique. And I don't know, man. I think, the dynamic relationship that we can have with all creativity, as well as like the dynamic relationship that we can have with the nature of how we consume art and media.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just makes life fuller, and especially in like recovery, sobriety, at least for me, it's been a tool not only to like accompany me through all of the experiences that I've had as like a soundtrack. I literally have a soundtrack, people. But it also has helped me to interpret, work through, and um, and cleanse, detoxify, and alchemize some of the things that I wouldn't be able to just tell you.
Yeah.
And that's what's dope about music. And that's what's dope about music in recovery or in any intentional lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, this relationship we build with our creativity is it's expression in a way that helps us process.
Yeah. And it helps you processing it in that way, like whatever your creative expression is an act of service, partially because it's good for you, and anything that you do to help, care for and heal yourself is an act of service, is like the greatest act of service, but also what you put out in the world is an act of service. And I love what you said about the, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but I was thinking about the sign that you have behind you sometimes that says like nobody knows anything, but approaching things in the kind of that it's freeing to be like nobody knows anything, you know? And I- when I'm so much of what you said, I've thought about the way I teach yoga, and I love teaching beginners. And if I have someone in my class who I know is not a beginner or who is like a teacher themselves or something, if I focus on that, I will not do my own, I will not be me when I'm teaching. But if I teach always focusing on the beginner, or just assuming that there is a beginner, or just being free enough to be like, the way I am speaking, no one else is, you haven't done this with me before, and this is what I have to offer, is when I do the best job. And I think any space that we show up in, the less assumption we make about, how what we're offering is going to be received, is like the better. And I think that just allows me to show up at all, like that's just there's just a freedom in that.
Yeah, it reminds me of one of the last shows that I did was a show that saw me following the Detroit Youth Choir, and they've been on America's Got Talent 1,000 times, and super talented. But it is like 20. It's like 20 of them. It's 20 kids. They singing, they dancing, they they stepping out into the crowd doing this. Got everybody doing that with them, and then they give me the mic and say, "And here's Bryce the Third." I didn't have a band or any. It's just me with some backing
Yeah.
tracks, and it's like, well, one, I acknowledged it, but two, it's like, I'm gonna get the experience that I'm gonna give,
Yeah.
even though there's nothing to hold anything up to,
Yeah.
and with the, nobody knows anything. Like, I'm somebody too, and
Mm-hmm.
so if I feel like I know that this was a setup and how I'm supposed to follow that, like, I don't know what this is gonna be. Like,
Yeah.
I can feed off of the belief that, like, I believe in these people to like resonate with this message. I believe that I'm gonna connect with the people who I'm supposed to connect with, and it
Mm-hmm.
ended up being an amazing show. So I don't know, man. I think the best way to kind of just wrap this episode up is in the way to acknowledge that this is. I think we went into this offline, like, hey, Bryce, let's talk about your music. And I think what this episode did was, yeah, we did kind of like dig into both of our relationship with music and a little bit of my creative process. But I think that, like, there's no rule book to anything for real,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're talking about art. Like there's no rule book as to how we should consume, or
Mm-hmm.
what you should listen to, or what is supposed to resonate with your soul does, or how you're supposed to create, or who you're supposed to talk to, or what you're supposed to say. Are you a person in recovery? You supposed to do this. Or if you're in
Mm-hmm.
these spaces where everybody else drinking, you supposed to drink too. Or because you used to drink when you played piano before, now you got to drink when you play piano again, or you're not gonna be the same. Like those supposed to. This is the art is the least. Art is the place where supposed tos ain't even supposed to be, but it's crazy. I feel like supposed tos are the most prevalent.
Yeah.
Like you think about art is ethereal. What are
Yeah.
you talking about? Like nobody can even tell me what art is. Like what is that? Like a group of people determines that, or
Yeah.
one person determines that. And you sitting here telling me what should be?
It's
Like,
such a human thing to try to like make sense of a thing, and like we're black and white thinkers in so many ways. We're like, this is the right way, this is the wrong way. And it's like, yeah, I feel like art is almost like the um I don't know, the remedy for that. And even in the remedy, we're like, well, let's apply it to that
yeah,
too.
well, what defines what art is? And
I
don't
know.
be one of these independent artists out
No.
here like myself writing grants, writing for these independent artist grants. Like, well, tell us, what is your practice, and what have you contributed to, and what has had an impact? It's like, damn, I ain't never think I had to think about how to convey this.
Oh my gosh,
But
yeah.
you can't cut your teeth, because then that's a whole nother conversation where you get to talking about like art can be something. Like art is not just an ethereal thing.
Hmm.
Art is also like a part of commerce. if I
Yeah.
have a if I have a Basquiat or Picasso at the Detroit Institute of Arts, that can attract tourism, which
Hmm.
could bring in more money for the city of Detroit.
Yeah.
And so if I tell a story about this art installation in a way that advances tourism, then we can have a conversation on the front end as to what that's worth to the city.
Hmm.
Same with music, same with murals and art. Like art is a very serious economic contribution.
Hmm.
And I don't think like without art, humans are bugs. Well, that's
Boring
the quote.
bugs.
that's that's the quote. That's the quote for the day. Without art, humans are bugs. And we don't want to be
Episode
bugs,
title:
man.
Rainbow Overhead.
But yeah, I'm looking at the timestamp, and we get into the end. I feel like I could talk about music and art all day. I don't think this is a one-off. I think we'll have a couple more episodes where we dive into art interpretation, share art, and have some pretty dope artists on
Yeah.
for you all. But in the meantime, if you would like to hear some of my newest art, For Colder Weather EP is dropping January 21st on all streaming platforms. That's YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all of the good stuff. Search Bryce
Hmm.
the Third, Google it, or go to your favorite DSP, which is Spotify, iTunes, and Bryce the Third. For Colder Weather is the EP. It's a collection of 7 songs. Liz has heard it. She
So
says
good.
it's eligible for a Grammy, so that's gotta say
I have.
everything that you need to know to
And I
hear it.
know what's supposed to be Grammy worthy. So
So check that out. Give me a spin. I'll put all the links in the thing on the thing. And you can click all the links and go to the places where those things are.
yeah.
Also, there's a couple of opportunities to support financially. And I just got to throw it out there because as an artist, sometimes it could be funny to ask for what it is that you need. But it's like, yo, we doing this thing independently. I put this whole project together, got it engineered, mixed, mastered, produced, and out of pocket for all of it. So
Hmm.
whatever you can do, if you enjoy it, I'm gonna have those links down below too. And yeah, any last words before we get up out of here, Liz?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would emphasize everything you just said, and I think if you can support an artist, and my favorite artist who happens to be here on this podcast, I would encourage you to. And also, we always say this at events at the Phoenix, where it's like, showing up is a contribution. So like, listen, download, stream, say something about it, and like however you can contribute to, I don't know, letting somebody know that they're doing cool things. I think that's great. I also think like it just shows the love of something when somebody is like doing all of that, like everything that you said. It's like that's an enormous undertaking to do a project like the thing that you just did. And like you're also, casually running this podcast. Like Bryce does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. casually, like making the app a place that people can enjoy being and like doing this really enormous job for this organization. And then also, like raising humans and having a life. And it's just an enormous amount
I
of
want to take a nap
things.
now.
I know. I'm like, it's a lot. And like, it should be, it's worthy of celebration. And to do that and then put this out in the world and have it be something we can all like put in our earbuds is freaking amazing. And I appreciate you. I'm your biggest fan. And thanks for taking the time to talk about it with us today, my friend.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
to all you, if you're not in the Phoenix app, hop on the Phoenix app, hop in the Rise, Recover, Live space, and let us know what your favorite songs are. What are you listening to? What are you vibing out to right now? And I think I'll leave you with the demand that you don't be an artless bug. We'll catch you next time on the Rise, Recover, Live podcast.
See you later.